Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya and the economic hub of East and Central Africa. Today we're going to talk about Nairobi. We're going to talk about the spiritual powers which govern Nairobi. Nairobi is a very important city for God, and also an important, is a strategic city to deal with in this end time, so that we can possess the gates of this city for the glory of Jesus Christ. Now today we're going to talk about the spiritual powers which govern Nairobi. It's very important. This message is for businessmen, is for Christian leaders, is for intercessors, is for pastors and all believers. You have to hear what I'm going to say to you, especially about Nairobi. It's very important to know the spiritual powers which govern the city. Hello guys, thanks for watching. It's me, Cleophas Wanyama, Cleo with him. And today we're going to talk about the spiritual powers which govern Nairobi. First, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Subscribe, go and watch the previous videos which I've done. I've done so many spiritual videos which are uplifting, Bible-based videos. Go and watch them, and I know it will uplift you. It will build your faith. Also, I'm a gospel artist. Go and watch my music, share my music, and you'll be blessed. Also, those who are sending us your financial contributions, we're grateful, and keep on supporting us so that we can be able to do what we're doing. Now, today we're going to talk about Nairobi. It's very important. We dealt with Mombasa, the spiritual powers which govern Mombasa County. Now, I'm going to deal with Nairobi today. It's very important. The Lord has laid it upon my heart to talk about the spiritual powers which govern Nairobi. Nairobi is a major city. Nairobi is a major city. Now, I want you to know that before we start talking about the altars which are in the city, before we talk about the city and what's in the city, you have to know the history of the city. It's very important for you to possess the gates of any city. It's for you to influence the city, any city. You need to know the history of the city. It's very important because inside the history we have patterns. Life follows patterns. Everything in this world follows a certain specific pattern. There is nothing new under the sun. So we need to know the history of Nairobi. When we get to know the history of Nairobi, we'll know the patterns which are laid down for the city of Nairobi, so that we can be able to conquer it. It's very important to know patterns. Never ignore patterns. If you ignore patterns, you will suffer the consequences. Now, Nairobi, formerly it was a swampy area, and it was occupied by the Maasai, the Kikuyus, and also the Kambas. Then when the white man came, they built the railway line, and then Nairobi was they made Nairobi a depot because the railway line passed through Nairobi. So they built a depot there for the goods. So eventually the place grew very, very fast. They pushed the Maasais and the Kikuyus and the Akambas out of the area, and then they started building the city. The white men built the city of Nairobi. It grew very, very fast, and then it even grew, and it surpassed Nairobi. It was formerly the British colony had made Mombasa the capital because of it was a nation city. But then over the years after building the railway line and the depot, Nairobi began to sprang up very quickly, and it had rivers. In fact, Nairobi is derived from the Maasai word meaning cool waters. Cool waters. Nairobi was derived from Maasai word meaning cool waters. So they built the depot, and eventually there was trade because of the railway, and the place grew. It grew over the years until it became a town. Then the British colony, they shifted the headquarters from Mombasa, and they made Nairobi the capital. So they started administering the work from Nairobi. Now, this is how Nairobi came about. This is the history of Nairobi. Now, we need to know the altars which are in Nairobi. It's very important. Now, as you know, as we have talked about Nairobi, let me just show you a slight difference between Nairobi and Mombasa. Mombasa was a gate. Mombasa, He was, and it's still the gate of East Central Africa. It was through the coast of Mombasa, the white men, the Oman Arabs, the British were able, the Portuguese were able to access, to enter the, this side of Africa. They were able to enter through using their ships. So it was the entry point. It was the gate. Still now, Mombasa is still the gate of East and Central Africa. Now, this was history, and that history has created a pattern, and that pattern still repeats itself till today. That's why I'm telling you patterns are important. Till today, Mombasa is still a gate of East and Central Africa. Nairobi is different from Mombasa. Mombasa came into being because it was a gate. Nairobi came into being because they were building the railway line, and they decided to build a depot. Then it grew until it became a city. It had good supply of water, and the climate was also good. So you get the difference. Now, this is where Nairobi came about. Then Nairobi grew because of trade. Till now, Nairobi is very vibrant in trade. That's why we have most of the country's GDP comes from Nairobi, and we have headquarters of embassies. UN have their UN. I think it is UNICEF or Habitat. So I'm not actually sure, but UN has one of their major offices in Bigiri in Nairobi. That shows you it is still the same pattern. The same way it grew from a depot until it became a thriving city, a thriving town. Till today, Nairobi is thriving, and trade is good in Nairobi. Most business people, they go to Nairobi to do their businesses. Now, that pattern has made Nairobi to flourish in business. You see, even the British had to change their capital from Mombasa to Nairobi. I said in the previous videos about the spiritual powers which govern Mombasa. Many artists from Mombasa, they migrate to Nairobi because in Nairobi they have the infrastructure, they have the studios, they have the media, and they say that music is playing in Nairobi. I've been in Nairobi, I know what I'm talking about. Most musicians in Nairobi, they make a good living out of music. Not even musicians, even business people. Nairobi, they say that there's this notion that Mombasa is slow and Nairobi is fast, and it's true. You can, if you're a businessman, you will know the difference. Doing business in Nairobi and doing business in Mombasa, there is a difference. In Mombasa, in Nairobi, things move very fast. People are very fast in doing business, and a lot of businesses in Nairobi, they flourish compared to Mombasa. Now you can see the pattern. The same way they built the depot and it grew and it became a major town, and now it's a city, and it's not only a city, but it's a major economic hub in East and Central Africa, Nairobi. Now we want to talk about the altars which are found in Nairobi. Now, the first altar, and this is one of the most dominant altars, is the altar of ancestral worship. The altar of ancestral worship. Now, I'm not trying to be tribal. The Kikuyus and the Maasai, they have their own ancestral worship. Is how they do. All African setting, we had our own way. We had our own gods. We had our own form of religion. We had a form of how we used to worship, how we used to sacrifice animals and do offerings, do rituals. Now, this thing is dominant also in Nairobi. There's a lot of the altar of ancestral worship from the Kikuyu, from the Maasai. Have you seen? We have seen in several occasions. If there is a problem, even politically, the Kikuyu elders go to their shrine, go to a tree. They offer sacrifices to appease their gods or to make things right. These things, you see them happening even in our time, in our civilization. Now, it started many years ago. many years ago. So that altar has become dominant in Nairobi. Why am I saying in Nairobi? Because most of the occupants in Nairobi are Kikuyus and the Maasai. Why? And also the Kambas. Why? Because central Kenya is near Nairobi. Central Kenya is just they are just they are just divided by the map, but they are more or less the same. Because if you have been to Nairobi, if you have been in Thika, and from Thika to Nairobi is not a long distance, you may not even realize you have moved from one town to another town. It looks like the same, but they are different towns altogether. Nairobi is a city, and Thika is another town, and Thika is in the central. Kiambu, all those central-based towns are near Nairobi. So you find that culture of ancestral worship has become dominant in Nairobi. Not only for the Kikuyus, also we have the Luos and the Luyas who also live in Nairobi. They came to Nairobi with their idols, with their ancestral worship, and it's sad to find that some of these tribes have tried to incorporate their ancestral worship with Christianity. You find there's a mix of Christianity and ancestral worship. You have heard in churches, people go to church, they are being prayed for by their pastor, and then they're told that they have to give out a cow for sacrifice. A cow for what? We don't do animal sacrifice nowadays, because Jesus was the sacrifice. So ancestral worship is the altar of ancestral worship is dominant in Nairobi. That altar is dominant. It's not so much in Mombasa, but that ancestral worship, the altar of ancestral is one of the most dominant altars in Nairobi. They do animal sacrifices. They do all manner of sacrifices. They may not have shrines in Nairobi, but if anything happens, as I've told, if the politicians they sense there's a problem in one of their own, they say they go to maybe to a town like Kiambu or to Nyeri or wherever in Central Kenya. And Central Kenya is near Nairobi, and they go to their shrine. They call on their Kikuyu god. They offer sacrifices so that they can appease their gods, and also to make things right. Those sacrifices are meant to affect things in Nairobi. So you can see the ancestral worship is very dominant in Nairobi. It's affecting many people in Nairobi. This is why we have groups like Mungiki. We had groups like Mungiki which were killing people. They are a result of these altars. And to deal with such cases of Mungiki and such cults which come up, cults, they are mixed. A cult is where you mix Christianity with ancestral worship. It becomes dangerous. You find in a church, people drink blood in the church. You can find even the Maasai, they drink blood of animals. And in a Christian, you are not supposed to drink blood of an animal. It's not right. You cannot. Why should you drink blood of an animal? Even Jesus himself he was alive. When he wanted to give his disciple his blood, he didn't cut himself. Jesus would have just cut himself and offer them the real blood, but instead he took wine and he took bread and said, "This is my blood." You are not supposed to drink blood, but in the African setting, our ancestral worship, most of us they drink blood, and you have incorporated this thing into the church, which is wrong. The altar of ancestral worship, God is speaking to us. That thing is dominant in us. The altar of ancestral worship is affecting Nairobi so much. Is affecting businesses. Business people from Nairobi go to whatever place they go. Even if it's not Nairobi, they go to the neighboring towns or to the neighboring villages which are near Nairobi to offer sacrifices for their business, to appease their gods, so that whatever they are doing in Nairobi, it can prosper. Can you see now how the altars of ancestral worship is affecting things in Nairobi? There's so much ancestral worship. As I was saying, This is why we had groups like Mungiki who are killing people. They believe in those, before they go to commit those crimes, they go and they take oaths. They swear oaths, they take oaths, they make sacrifices. So all those things that come from the altars of ancestral worship. It's not only the Gekus, we have also the Luyas. You go to a church, they have those drums. I'm not against the drums. I love the drums. I love Luya music. I'm a Luya myself. But there's a certain spirit of divination which has crept into the church. And this has happened through the altar of ancestral worship. That altar has penetrated, has infiltrated the church. And that altar has to be dealt with. It's very, very important. Many leaders, many political leaders, many leaders, business leaders, political leaders, leaders from all the walks of life, they go to ancestral altars to offer sacrifice so as to receive strength for their business, for their political ambition, for whatever they want to do. The altar of ancestral worship has to be dealt with. Another altar which is found in Nairobi is the art of witchcraft. Whenever there is ancestral worship, you must have the art of witchcraft because they go hand in hand. Art of witchcraft. Nowadays, witches are all over the place. They are no longer found in the village. They're also they're in the village, but they're also in towns nowadays. Even in America, there are witches. Nowadays, when you go to America, you don't say witch, you say psychic. And you find one old lady has a good office. You pay consultation fee. You go and talk to them. Those are witches and wizards. Those are astrologers. They are using black magic. They are not of God. The altar of witchcraft is dominant in Nairobi. It has to be dealt with. There are so many witches and wizards. People are practicing witchcraft right nowadays in the cities, in the towns. Witches are no longer only found in the villages, they're found in the cities. The altars of witchcraft are dominant also in Nairobi. These altars have to be dealt with. Another altar number 3, the altar of Islam. The altar of Islam also is a strong altar in Nairobi, but not strong as it is in Mombasa. The altar of Islam is stronger in Mombasa than it is in Nairobi. We have the altar of Islam. It's also dominating. It's dominating. The Muslims pray. They pray. Prayer. The altar is strong because of the prayer. Altar is commitment to deity. And the way they pray all the time, the altar is strong. Right now, there are parts of Nairobi which are controlled by Somalis. Like Isili, there are some parts of Nairobi, there are parts of Nairobi which are run by those people. I saw in another video clip, it was during the time for prayers in Isili, in Nairobi, and you find even all the roads were closed, and people were kneeling down, people were praying on the road, people were lined up as if they were in the mosque, they were praying. It was so touching how they are committed to their God. The altar of Islam is a very strong altar. Very, very strong altar globally. That altar also is in Nairobi. Another altar is the marine spirit. Nairobi came from the word cool waters. The British, they chose Nairobi because of it had a supply of water. We have Nairobi River before it became polluted. Nowadays, the Nairobi River is so polluted, you can't even use the water. It looks like sewage. But years back, it was clean water. So we have marine spirits also in Nairobi. And mostly people use marine spirits for businesses. Marine spirits, they use for businesses to attract wealth, to attract people into your businesses. Shop owners, they go to buy these marine spirits. They are used for businesses to attract customers. And also these marine spirits also, they usually come at night to sleep with women, sometimes even sleep with men. You find you wake up in the morning and you discovered you just had intercourse in your dream. These are caused by marine spirits. These altars are dominant. Now, another altar is the altar of Freemason. The altar of Freemason is very dominant in Nairobi. Most business leaders, most politicians, rich people, people who run cities, they worship at this altar. Freemason. And if I may tell you this, there is a church in Nairobi which was built by the Freemasons many years ago when they came into the city of Nairobi. It's a cathedral, was built by the Freemasons. You just go and do a research and you'll know which cathedral in Nairobi was built by the Freemasons. Freemasons, those are secret societies. There's Freemasons, the Illuminatis. These things are real. These are not hearsays which were trying to scare people. These things are real. The altar of Freemason is very, very strong in Nairobi. These are the altars which are working against the church. These are the altars which you are fighting with. These altars have to be brought down spiritually. This thing has nothing to do with physical attacks. It has nothing to do with demonstrations. I'm not giving you this information so that you can demonstrate. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal. We don't fight wars physically. We fight wars spiritually. The altars of Freemason. This altar is very vibrant in Nairobi. And it controls the economy of Nairobi. I'm sorry to say, but most of the economy of Nairobi, the huge part of the economy of Nairobi is controlled by the altar of Freemason. There are many people who are serving in this altar. Politicians, big businessmen, they are into the Freemason. Now, these are the altars which run Nairobi. I want to know something. What controls cities or nations are not politicians. What controls or runs nations and cities are not politicians, are the altars in that city. It is the altars which dictates the happenings of any city. It is the altars of that city which dictates the happenings of that nation. So you need to know the altars which are in your city. You need to know the altars which you are dealing with. The Bible said, do not be ignorant of his devices. We need to know the altars which are in this city so that we can engage in spiritual warfare, so that we can possess the gates of this city for the glory of God. It's important, listen, it's important to possess the gates of city. God does not only want us to win souls, we need to take over territories. It's not enough to win souls, we need to take over territories for God. It's important. I'm going to talk about this issue of taking over territories in subsequent videos so that you can understand why is it important to take over cities and why am I sharing this information. It's very important. We need to take over cities for God. Now, how do you go about these altars? Now, in the same way in the video which I did, that how to defeat the altars found in Mombasa County, go and watch that video, how to defeat the altars found in Mombasa County. Now, the same model we use to deal with the altars in Mombasa County is the same model we use to deal with altars in probably all the areas, except if there are differences here and there. There are some exceptions here and there. But the best way to deal with altars is to go around the cities praying. Intercessors, I'm talking to intercessors, I'm talking to pastors, I'm talking to business leaders. If you have a car, enter into that car, go around the city, praying in the spirit, interceding. Prayer, when you pray, prayer opens a portal. When you pray, you open up a spiritual portal and you connect heaven and earth. The problem is that if you don't pray, God won't do anything. It is your prayers which invite God into your situation. It is the prayers that we do which invite God into our cities. And we need to go around the same way in the book of Joshua. Joshua went around Jericho 7 times until the walls came down and he took over the city. We need to go around our cities, especially the CBD areas. We need to go around the city, interceding, praying in the Spirit, prophesying upon the city until we take charge of the city. This thing we should be doing every day. It should be our routine. It should be our lifestyle. We're not doing it just because we need to take over cities. No, we're doing it as a lifestyle. We're doing it over and over and over. We need to do that by prayer. I've explained more in the videos how to possess the gates of Mombasa City. In that video, it's not only Mombasa City, it also gives you a model on how to possess the gates of any city around the world. I'll be coming up with videos. If I get any information about the altars in any city around the world, I'll be able to share with you in my vlogs. And you don't have to travel to a place to know the spirit which is affecting people in that place. If you know the history of the place, and then also you engage the Holy Spirit to reveal to you, to give you revelation about what's happening in that city, your eyes can be open to see. You see, in the Bible, the prophets wrote things which are happening now, and they are not living with us today. It is the Spirit which gives revelation. Guys, thanks for watching. I hope you are blessed by this video. Kindly go and watch it and share it with other people so that they can be blessed. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel and also send us your financial contributions to help us to do whatever we're doing. See you next time. God bless you. For me, it's bye.